Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello, everyone. My name is Umar. I'm your host on the No Limit Selling podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategy, and advice on how you can become better, stronger, faster. Just before we get started, I've got a question for you. Do you have a negative voice inside your head? We all do, right? I'm going to help you remove that voice in under 30 days guaranteed. Not only remove it, but transform it. So instead of the voice that sabotages you, there's one that propels you to much higher levels of performance and success. There's a link in the show notes. Click on it to find out more. All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Today we have John Papaloni with us. He's a realtor who's gone bust and came back, and that is one hell of a trick. And, you often hear about that. Once you've reached a certain level, even if you fail, you can come back really quickly. And it's very theoretical. But today we're going to dig deep to figure out how we really make that happen. John, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
And before we started, I was commenting on your studio, just the lighting and the microphone. And, that's part of being successful in life is having the right tools and being able to use them. So why don't we kick off with that? Give me a sense of, why is that important to you, and how do you know you have the right tools?
Well, I think what's more important than just the tools is the consistency of using it. But with the assumption of the fact that you're going to be consistent, then you have to have the right tools. Now, this is the way I look at it. If you don't have the right mic, people don't hear you. And if they don't see you, then you're pretty much like, it's okay to be an audio podcast as an example.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing video, you don't have to be the best, but you got to be somewhat clear. But like in terms of visual, but the mic is the most important tool we have, because people will put up with a blurry image if they can understand what you're saying, but they will not put up with a clear image if they don't know what you're saying. So obviously audio is first. But then if it's more pleasing to the eye, it's more attractive. And as it's more attractive, people want to see what's going on.
Excellent. So John, do a little introduction. You're a realtor. Tell us who you are and how you, what's a nice boy like you doing on a podcast like this?
All right. Sounds good. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've, like, as you said, I've been from rags to riches, kind of one of those stories, and back to rags and back to riches and all over the place. I'm dual licensed in terms of I'm a realtor as well as a mortgage agent.
Wow.
So the mortgage agent is 2023. That's kind of new. But with that being said, so I'm a very entrepreneurial like. As you can tell from the title at the bottom of the screen here, it says Papaloni Capital. That is sort of where I lead to everything, because that's the ultimate end goal, which is a capital investment company. So I take investors and I allow them to invest with me into multi-residential as well as private equity mortgages. So I do kind of both. And then, so I use my realtor license as well as my mortgage license, and I use that to help clients, of course, and build a business that way. But I also use that to have investors who have maximized their own potential investments, but are still wanting to put more money into real estate and don't know how to expand. I offer that solution.
Excellent. So what do mortgage brokers miss with realtors? It seems to be a very simple relationship, but I suspect there's more complexity there, and there could be more value add. And since you happen to do both, you'd have a really keen insights on how mortgage people should play with realtors and vice versa.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's always good to have a relationship with both as a client. And realtors and mortgage brokers tend to it's one of those things that it's hard to say like why, but for whatever reason they don't collaborate as much as they should. And one of the benefits is that if you have both in each other's corner, you kind of funnel people to each other and help each other in terms of clients, and you get to be involved in the whole process. Where you have separate people, what ends up happening is you always have questions. You ask the client, have you gotten your mortgage approval yet? Oh, well, let me check with Bob Smith. He hasn't gotten back to me today. And the mortgage person says, hey, well, have you gotten these documents from the realtor? Oh, well, I'll check with John because I haven't gotten that yet. And it's going back and forth. Now, when you have a working relationship with a mortgage person, it tends to be a little bit smoother in the whole process. And we kind of keep each other updated at all times. So you're not having the client up in the clouds wondering what the heck is going on, living, by the edge of their seats, panicking all the time because they don't know whether or not they're getting the house. They kind of have the play by play, step by step, and everyone's in the loop. So that's one of the advantages of having people work with each other and feed off each other that way. It's basically to ease the customer's mind and make things smoother for them.
Absolutely. So, John, walk us through the rise of John Papaloni, and then we'll talk about the fall and then the rebirth. So, what business were you in? What were you doing? And how did you get there? And what the hell happened?
All right. So I started off in the as a young kid, like everybody else, wanted to DJ, play music, and
Mm,
my passion was radio, which is kind of why we're on podcasting. It's kind of carrying forward in my passion. So what happened was I wasn't very much of a scholar. Like I went through school, I graduated, I got my college diploma, whatever. But it wasn't something that was important to me. And I kind of just went through the motion, and I didn't want to go through the broadcasting side just because I was halfway through the program. And I said, why would I want to do that again? So what happened was I figured I'm going to do my shortcut, which is the workaround. And I decided I was going to be a DJ and play music, and I was going to play in the clubs. So when the radios play live from the clubs, guess who's there? Because it wasn't radio dependent as much as the club
mm,
dependent. So I got in there, and I was good at that, and I became successful that way. I ended up getting on. I was on the radio station 4 days a week, which is exactly what I wanted.
nice.
Um, but yeah, so then when the clubs dumped the radio, well, I was the one left with the club. The kind of the radio didn't take me with them. So then it was sort of like, well, I'm not here for you. I'm here for the radio. So I guess I'm out too. But then, you know what? That is a young man's game. And there's only a certain point where you can go, before you have to progress to something else. Now the option, I could have gone to radio and tried to get a job now that they know me. But I ended up starting off a little marketing business and built into a print business as well. So I got marketing and print at the same time, and I built that little business. I did pretty good at that. I got a large client right off the bat,
Nice.
and yeah. And the problem is though, at 21 years old with that large client, then you get big headed, and I had an ego to say the least. So what ended up happening is that there was mergers and acquisitions and stuff, and then the head honcho in Canada, because it was a big company that was American, and they opened up in Canada, but they merged with a Canadian company, or they bought the Canadian company, and the Canadian company CEO was now running the Canadian side, and the
Mm,
Americans were running the American side. So what ended up happening is there was a little bit of a tuffle, and I ended up walking away. And I thought, big ego, I can replace them like that. Like it's so easy, no problem. I don't need them. They need me more than I need them. Then I got the rude awakening.
right.
And, I thought I would take some time off, and then I would just get back on the horse and get a new big client. Well, when you have big expenses because you don't trim down, 6 months go by with no income or nothing more than 50 to $100.
That
you,
hurt.
you, you see where I'm going with this, right? So I ended up getting into trouble there, and that was a rude awakening. At that point in time, I ended up finding myself about 100 to $110,000 in debt. And at 21 years old, no idea what to do with it, and eventually got tired of those phone calls. So I ended up going bankrupt over it. And ironically, what happened from there, I decided to I met a few people, and we decided to open up another company. And it was similar business, pretty much the same thing, except we went wholesaling. So it took about 90 days to really take off. I got an idea. We got an idea is, instead of like, look, the big problem is when you get into printing, I'll use print as an example. It's the easiest way to describe it. When you get into printing, like most printers do not want to turn on a printing press for a business card, because for
Right.
lack of better description, it takes roughly $500 to $800 just to turn the press on. And to do that for an $80 business card, it's kind of wasteful. But
Mm,
what do you do to your major client? You got a major client like Apple, as an example, who might give you, two to $4 million a year in packaging, just say. And now
mm.
they want an $80 business card. We're gonna say, nah, too small for me. Just send me your packaging. No, you're gonna do it. So it was a burden to a lot of printers. So I thought, you know what? I like that stuff. and I find that stuff easy. So I became a wholesaler. What I did is I did what's called a gang run, which is we take that big, large printing sheet, which is about 28 by 60 wide, and we group a bunch of business cards on there. You can fit about 60 cards per page.
Mm-hmm.
So I started getting 60 different clients and I got printers that sent me their business cards. I got graphic designers, advertising agencies, pretty much anybody in the wholesale area to send me all their business. And I ended up doing so much that I couldn't keep up. Now I ended up like that business hit 8 figures a year, put it that way. So then in about 2007, I sold it.
Nice.
So yeah, and I got actually more than I asked for. So that worked out well. And from there on, I went to try other ventures. And one was an online radio, so like an online, it was online radio as well as like a blog. And
Right.
it was a mixture of what's going on in the city of Toronto and as well as with the online radio. I had the ability for people to listen to my music or whatever it is that we were playing through their BlackBerry, because back in the day we didn't have the
Oh, wow.
iPhones yet, right? So everything was through the BlackBerry. So if you had a BlackBerry, which the majority of people did, and you were driving to the nightclub, you can actually hear what's going on in the nightclub before you even get there, because you
Oh,
just
wow.
log in, you choose which nightclub you want to listen to, click on it, and it would play. And then you can play that through your car, whether you plugged it in. Back then it was more plug in than Bluetooth, and you can listen to it all the way to the club, just like the radio, except it's through the internet. So it's pretty cool. It did well, but then that's when my parents got sick, and
Oh.
I shut that down. I tried running it a year while I was at home with my dad, and my mom went to a retirement home. She had Alzheimer's. So when I was home with my dad for that year, I tried to run it for the year, and it just became a positive, like a profit to loss. And ended up losing overall about, I didn't lose a lot in that one. I lost about $34,000, but because it was indefinite, I didn't know when I would go back. So I decided just to shut down and cut my losses. So with that being said, then fast forward, my dad went into a home to join my mom, and I didn't know what to do with myself. I tried the whole 9 to 5 thing that lasted a whole 90 days. Um, then I kind of decided, you know what am I good at? What do I want to do? And I thought, my parents were landlords. I go to open houses every weekend, even though I'm not really looking at the time. So I said, you know what? Instead of going to open houses for free, why don't I get my realtor's license? Then I can do these open houses. I can sell people's homes. I can help people find homes. And that usually when they find homes, people are happy. They get keys, they find their home. They're very happy people. So I can help them do that. And I obviously enjoy the real estate space. So I got my realtor's license. And 8 years later, I decided I wanted to expand my service. So then that's where I got my mortgage license, and I developed Papaloni Capital for the investment portfolio. And here we are.
Brilliant. So, do you have a team in your real estate company?
Absolutely. I am in the beginning stages, so I'm very small, but yes, I am growing. Let's put it this way: I rarely show houses anymore. I usually get
Right.
someone else to do that. I handle the listings myself. Listings meaning the homes for sale. But in terms of buyers, I tend to get farm
Buyer's
that
agent.
out. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, exactly. And then obviously I have some people working on the admin side or graphic side, and etc. So so it's beginning stages of my growth, but I'm loving it.
So I've noticed in our conversation today, a lot of times when it comes to numbers, you bracket it. I made this much, or I lost between 100,000, 110,000. So tell me the thought process behind that, because it's uh, yeah. Tell me more about that. The reason to bracket, which is actually a really effective way of sharing numbers.
Well, yeah, I bracketed it because you know what? Everyone can say, "Oh, I did a big business or it was a small business." Well, define that. What is a big business? What is a small business? Like I may be talking to you and I say, "Hey, I made $1 million." To me, I feel like a billionaire. And reality is, to you, you might look at that and say, "Great, that's equivalent to 100 grand 20 years ago in today's dollars. What else are you doing?" Right. So now people, you can kind of gauge with those kind of numbers of where I stood, back then versus today, because there's big different numbers. Look, when I lost that 109,000 today, 109,000 is something like a year and a half worth of salary. But back then, the average salaries were 29,000, which I'm aging myself right now.
Yeah.
So that was like equivalent to 5 or 6 years of salary. So I think today that's more of like a $450,000, $500,000 loss versus,
for sure.
Yeah. So it's much different.
So let's go to our sponsor and we'll be right back. To let go of anxiety, let go of uncertainty, let go of doubt. Mindset Boosters gives you the ability to decide how you act and feel in any situation. Ready to take charge of your mindset? Go to mindsetboosters.com. So in real estate or in any endeavor, mindset is such a critical component of how well we do. So first, let's talk about your mindset. Tell me about a time where it wasn't where it needed to be and what you did to kind of get it back where you wanted it. And what do you do on a regular basis to make sure you're like in the frickin' zone to get shit done?
Well, that's the thing, right? I preached consistency before, right? So developing routine and developing a daily task and a weekly plan. Like on Sundays, we'll take it. I put out my plan for the whole week. Like I could tell you what I'm doing at 2:00, 2:30, 2:45, etc. And I know exactly. Now, obviously, plans fluctuate because things in life change, and as a result, you have to adapt. You can't just be rigid. But having that game plan first is a great way to start, because then if you don't know where you're going, how do you get there? Right? That's the thing. Now, one of the things that held me back is myself. My whole mindset is that I have trouble letting go. That was one of my restrictions, even when I had the 8-figure business. It was a very big restriction. I got capped there, not because the industry was capped, it's because I had trouble letting go. Like, what's the point of hiring and having more people if you're breathing down their necks every hour on the hour? So I have gotten better over the years, but I still have trouble letting go at certain points, right? And that's the thing. So I am capping myself. So one of the things I've learned, and now, and that's what I'm starting to practice now, which is why, look, this building up and building people. I was ready to build people 2 years ago, and I just kept holding back. A couple of times I even tried. I took on more people, then things kind of swayed not the way I want to. So I went back to being on my own, send the heck with it. And you know what? That was the wrong approach. So the lesson I got here is that I've got to learn to let go. And the mindset that's changed is that I got to focus on who, not how. So many times, and that was my restriction and why I wasn't, had a control problem.
Are you also referring to the book by the same name?
That has a book, but that is the same concept, exact same concept, right? Yes, I read that book and that inspired me, but but this is where I'm going with it, right? So it's the same concept, same thing. If I focus on how to do things so much, I'm trying to focus on what I can do. But then it goes back to what everybody says. There's 24 hours in a day, and you're going to be asleep for, even if you don't sleep a lot, you're at least sleeping for 5 hours of it, right? So that leaves you with 19 hours. And then even if you're that mad where you're going to go out and do 19 hours a day, which I don't think everybody's going to do, you still run out of time. There's only so much you can do now, and there's only so far you can go. There's only so many people you can meet. There's only so many people you can talk to. So I can't expand past my 19 hours, we'll say. But now if I find myself in the right network with the right people and I build the right team under me, now all of a sudden it's not just my 19 hours, but it's everybody under me, right? So if I got 5 people connected to me, and we'll even make it easier in that math, just
10 hours each.
10 hours each, exactly. So now between myself and the 5 other people, I got the ability to put in 60 hours a day in efficiencies. I just got to let them go, let them do their thing. So, and here's the key component. If you find yourself needing to control, the issue isn't that person in the way that their abilities. The issue is you made a wrong choice to hire. You hired someone that you didn't feel confident enough to let them go and do their thing. And if you're not confident in their skills, then they're in the wrong position, or you're not training them properly. It's got to be one or the other.
Absolutely. And I think, well, let's go back a bit. You were talking about, ego got in the way and it was part of your downfall going down. So, how do you keep an eye on that so it doesn't, because ego is such a sneaky, powerful, amazing thing, because without it, we can't do stuff, but also it can get in the way. So, how do you keep your finger on the pulse to make sure ego's there in a very positive way and not in a way that's going to sabotage you or diminish others?
That comes sometimes just in life experiences. Like, believe me, when you get kicked in the teeth and you go and you flop and go bust, you tend to open up your eyes a little bit more. And when you come close to being bust a second time, then, and I didn't the second time, but came close. And
Mhm.
when you hit that spot twice, you kind of learn a lot of things along the way. And one thing you learn to be is humble. And then again, it goes back to who you're surrounded with. Sometimes just being around the right people
Mm.
tends to inspire you. And when you're inspired, you're looking to grow, you're looking to build, you're looking to improve and elevate. And when you're looking to improve and elevate, there's no room for ego.
Absolutely. And I think, how many agents in your team? Is it
Just
just
one.
just one? Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start.
Yep.
And in your office, you're part of Royal LePage,
Roll a page. That's correct. Roll a
and
page signature. We have 1,500 agents there.
where is that located geographically?
Well, we have three offices: one in Mississauga, one in downtown Toronto, and one in the Don Mills area. So it's all roughly focused around the
Brilliant.
we're all in Ontario basically, but we go in, yeah, like a lot of the agents, like I work myself from Niagara Falls, Ontario, all the way to Etobicoke, which is halfway to downtown. And then I farm out everything past Etobicoke. I won't do that myself.
Smart. So, what are three pieces of advice you'd give realtors that have been in the business for 3, 4 years, where they're doing 20 transactions a year, maybe 15? How do they jump up to the 40 transaction? Like what advice would you give them to get to the next plateau?
Well, advice number one is niche down. Too many times we try to be everything for everybody, and
Hmm.
I did that too. And I was all over the place like a ping pong ball. And I was everything I was nothing to nobody and everything to nobody.
Yep.
Right. So it's like I said, 70% of my business is agent to agent referral. That was my niche. Now I found that after the pandemic ended and interest rates went up, my business has shifted. So now I've become an investment focused realtor. So I've adjusted with the times because now that things are a little bit scarce, people are more reluctant to farm out and they're going to do the distance they would have never done before. So you have to always adjust and adapt. So yeah, one, niche down, know
So
who you're serving.
hold right there for a minute, and we'll go to two in a second. What's kind of interesting is uh, I'm guilty of this. I want to niche down. That makes a lot of sense. But John, there's this other group of people, and it's so enticing to try and expand it, but niching down. So how do you stay true to that? What advice would you give to stay true to the niche and not to be seduced by uh, uh, easy pickings, but then it distracts you from what you're really trying to build?
Well, get out of the scarcity mindset. It's when you look at business the way I do today, which is in the form of abundance, you realize there's plenty of business. Now, we have in Ontario, prior to during COVID, we had 122,000 transactions and 92,500 realtors. Now, that is less than that's about 1.1 or maybe just slightly less than that transaction per person. Now you have some agents doing 50 transactions, some of them doing 600 transactions. You have teams that are doing 1,000. You have other ones that are doing 200. So what does that do to the numbers for everybody else? It brings
Starving.
them. You got it right. So 80% of the people do 0 to 1 transaction a year. 15% make a living, and then 5% make the wealth that everybody thinks that everyone makes. And so my point is, though, everyone's trying to get all 122,000 transactions. Even if you had a team of 50, you cannot do that.
Mm.
So what you want is your slice of pie. Now, if you're going after, if you go to a certain area, there might be 27,000 homes as an example. And in that 27,000 home, even if you got 5% of that, that is huge. That's probably more than you can handle as an individual anyways. So why chase all 27,000 in the area instead of targeting that 5%? And then you can make yourself a lot more attractive to that 5% and therefore getting it. I find that the more I niche down and the more I focus on an individual that fits my profile, the easier that the conversions come.
Brilliant. So what's number 2?
Number 2 would be know what your value proposition is and how you can help other people. Start looking at your business as ways of serving and not ways of collecting money. The more you serve, you got to give to get. So the more you serve and help other people, it's like reciprocity. The more they want to help you. And how do they help you? They help you by using you instead of somebody else.
Brilliant. So what's your value prop? When you're meeting someone, you say, hey, my name's John, and what?
My value proposition is that I'm a one-stop shop between mortgages and real estate, and I focus on investors, and I help you build wealth. I'm not here to sell you the home that you live in, although I can do that. I'm here to help you build generational wealth.
Love it. Number 3.
Number 3 would be to make sure that you, what would 3 be? I gave you niche, I gave you service, and
cocaine. No, not cocaine.
No,
that would be bad.
Yeah, I would say number 3 would be, the third thing I would focus on would be, again, consistency. It comes down to always being consistent.
I think words to live by, something we've interviewed a lot of realtors, and some of the most successful realtors, one of the things they put down as an absolute must is hard work. It's like, if you want to be really successful, it takes effort and hard work, and be prepared to do it. And it's not a matter of being smarter and not working hard. It's like they got systems, they got elegance, but people get a sense of they can take their foot off the gas when they reach a certain level. And this is when you go to, doing well, not doing well. And so, yeah, consistency, super huge. So, John, I've been interviewing you for about 27 minutes. You get to ask me one question.
Absolutely. What was that moment for you that you realized you were in the right space in life and you were heading where you were heading towards your goal, and you had that aha moment where you're like, I'm here. This is it. I'm glad I'm here. It took me a while, but I made it.
So that moment, thank you for asking that question. That's a really good question. So my area of expertise is changing human behavior very quickly. And somebody called me up and said, my daughter was bitten by a dog, and each time she looks in the mirror, she sees a scar that's been repaired by a plastic surgeon, a scar that doesn't exist. And she just basically, her whole being just falls because she gets taken back to that dog bite experience. And I was meeting her the next day, and that evening I could not sleep because I was like so excited to be of help. And I had no freaking way how I was going to help this 4.5-year-old girl, but I knew with certainty I would. And the next morning, of course, we did something magical. And for her, she wouldn't see the scar anymore, and she just got her life back. And that's when I knew 100% that I was doing exactly what I was meant to do. And I think it's all about feelings are more important than thoughts. And when you're doing the right thing and you've got that feeling of excitement, joy, and service, can't be beat. So pay attention to your body and not your head, and it'll point you in the right direction. And one of the things that I've noticed about you, John, as we've been talking, is you're always learning. And that's one of the things that great leaders do, is always learning, always improving, even if it's like some tangent kind of bullshit thing. I want to learn about horticulture. It still comes in handy in whatever profession you're doing, because there's insights everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Right. You're always learning. You're either growing or dying. And that's what I truly believe.
Yeah, I think there's a Bob Dylan song, and we'll leave it with this quote. He not busy being born is busy dying. And once you realize that, the only moment is now. And now's the moment to do the end credits. But stay with me, John. We're going to go after interview conversation just in a moment. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.